What's going on, guys? Welcome into another episode of the Fantasy Football Fix podcast. My name is Ian Smith, joined again by Cody Collado. Cody, how's your night going?
Hey Ian, it's going very well. Just hanging out, ready to talk some football. We missed last week, so got some news to catch up on. I'm just gonna hang out tonight and pick some players in a mock draft.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, man! Have a beer, do a mock draft. What more could you ask for? So it's exciting time of the year for fantasy football. That's for damn sure. So yeah, I guess we'll jump right into the news here, like Cody said. We're gonna bring up a little bit of our dynasty auction draft, our startup draft that we just had earlier this week. So some interesting stuff. We kind of just want to touch on that. And then we're going to break into a half point PPR 12 team mock draft for our guys today. So jumping right into the news, big news out of Dallas. Travis Frederick just the other day, I believe it was yesterday or this morning. It's for everybody. Today is August the 23rd. The report came out that he is suffering from an autoimmune disease that, by all accounts could keep him out the entire season. It could keep him out 6 weeks. No one's really sure what the timeline is. On a more positive note, it sounds like Zach Martin will be ready for week 1. But Cody, this has got to affect Zeke and Dak at least a little bit out there in Dallas. I mean, what are your thoughts on how this will affect them?
I think it would affect them just a little bit. I don't think it's going to do too much damage. That's obviously going to take down more practice they're going to have before week 1 comes along. But as long as he's back, they'll be totally fine. It won't slow him down at all. I don't think. If anything, it may bring Zeke's value down just a little bit in the first week or so, but I don't see much of a change.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Zeke's still going to be Zeke. There's no real doubt about that. He's still going to get the ball a ton. My bigger concern is going to be with Dak. Dak's already not exactly somebody that I like his outlook for the season, and this is only going to hurt. If anything, it's gonna increase the dump offs to a guy like Zeke, but it's gonna really make the wide receivers a lot harder to trust. I mean, right now, first, who knows who's going to step up as their number 1 wide receiver, right? I kind of lean towards Michael Gallup after a couple of weeks establishing himself as that guy. But if, Frederick's out for a long period of time, it's definitely going to affect those guys, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have Gallup kind of high on my radar right now. I think he's going to be the go-to guy as well on that team. They don't have much else to look for. But losing, Jason Witten, there was a big loss for the targets and everything. Gallup is right on my radar. He's going to be looking. I'll be looking to draft him.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. All right, on to another little bit here. We've got another report out of Kansas City that Watkins and Pat Mahomes are starting to click a little bit more. For me, I'd like to see that happen in a preseason game because Watkins has been pretty anonymous so far this preseason. I know I've been high on Sammy this entire year coming into the year. And so I'd really like to see a little bit of production out of him, see a little bit of a connection there between him and Mahomes this week in the preseason to kind of start backing up the blind faith that I've been throwing his way. But I mean, do you put any stock into those reports?
Well, yeah, any practice they have that you see there's some connection going on between them is going to make everyone, pay attention a little bit more. We know Mahomes has a big arm, and Andy Reid's going to let him do what he wants to do. He's going to give his rookie quarterback the chance to let it fly, I feel like, this year. And Sammy Watkins is going to be that deep threat down the field. And if they're in sync like that, that's going to bring the value up some more. I haven't brought Sammy Watkins up at all in my rankings. Even after that news, I still would draft him later on in the draft. I wouldn't put him as that high of a value, but he could be someone that, if someone in your league doesn't pick up, you can streamline him off the waivers.
All right. In the last little bit that I've got, Frank Reich, Indianapolis head coach, said today, no slam dunk that Marlon Mack starts the season. That's a little troubling to me, especially because he's dealing with a hamstring injury. That's generally not, especially for the running back position, that's not a good sign when you've got somebody dealing with a hamstring injury this early in the season. Generally, those tend to linger. What does this do for a guy like Jordan Wilkins for you? Do you start moving him up a little bit? I mean, personally, I'm already down on Marlon Mack. I don't like him as much as a lot of other people. I just don't see him being the clear-cut guy in Indianapolis. But, do you see more of an opportunity for Jordan Wilkins, the rookie out there?
Well, yeah, of course. If Mack doesn't start beginning of the season here, you'll see Wilkins getting the balls a little bit more, which will definitely will make the position to kind of figure out who's going to have the touches when the season comes along. If Wilkins shows that he can handle the spotlight there on the Colts team, they'll look to give him the balls more. I agree with you. I'm not high on Marlon Mack either. I think he's kind of going a little bit higher than I would draft him. But, if Jordan Wilkins can show that he's going to be the go-to guy, I think that it's something that keep in the back of mind. Maybe draft him like in a dynasty draft that we had last night. Someone you could keep and stash in your back pocket.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you there. It's going to be kind of a mess in Indy, and really would be nice to get a little bit of clarity on what they're doing. See how they roll out this week in preseason. It's going to be kind of interesting. You did mention our dynasty auction draft that we just had. One of the guys that I picked up, Baker Mayfield on $2 bid, which I'm actually pretty happy about. This just in, looks like he might be starting week 1 for Cleveland. Right now, just a couple minutes ago in their preseason game, Tyrod Taylor hurt. On the replays, looks like it could be a broken arm, broken wrist. I don't know at this point in time, but the initial reports that I've seen are not good. So Baker Mayfield week 1, what do you make of that?
I don't even know. To be honest with you, that's going to be a big shocker. I know they were definitely not looking to have him start week 1. Not saying that he couldn't do it, but they were looking to give him his time to develop into the quarterback they need to be on their team. They need the franchise quarterback. They haven't had that in a very long time in Cleveland, and they were looking to take that time to progress with them. If Tyrod Taylor is out, they may throw Baker Mayfield in there week 1 and see how he does, and they may have to look to picking up a quarterback somewhere. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting week 1, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, especially I like the sounds of that. Tyrod's only going to take him so far. We've seen that. You feel bad for the guy though. Solid quarterback, looking for another chance as a starter. So yeah, on to the dynasty draft. So for me, it was kind of cool. It was the first time I've ever been involved in a dynasty draft. It's the first time I've ever done an auction draft other than just mock draft. So a couple of interesting, a couple of firsts for me there. And I think it actually was for a lot of guys in our league as well. It was kind of an interesting setup. We have 22-man rosters and our budget was $200 for the entire team. So the shocking thing to me was to see, Le'Veon Bell go for $70 right off the bat. I mean, I think prices were going kind of crazy.
Yeah, people were definitely throwing money around right in the beginning there. And even I was. I think I took 2 players and I sat through maybe 10 or 15 more after that went because I just couldn't afford them. I had to save my money for later on in the draft. It was definitely different. I think it was even more different because it was a dynasty. You had to kind of think about, who you're going to have in the future. But I've never done an auction draft before, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was definitely interesting. Was there any strategy that you took into the draft?
Try to get young players that I could keep around for a little bit. If I was spending money on them, I got to be sure about them. One pick I was happy about, I got Sony Michel for $5. I thought that was a solid pick. As long as he comes back in to the Patriots team and is the starter, when he comes back from his injury there, I think he'll be a good pick.
Yeah, I mean, it was for me. I came into it saying that I wanted 2 of the top 10 running backs. Was kind of the only thing that I had set in my head coming into that. I ended up with David Johnson and Kareem Hunt as my running backs. So I was very happy about that. The one thing about the running backs that I didn't love, I wish that I had spent another dollar or two and went and got Christian McCaffrey, and instead of spending what I spent on Kareem Hunt, which was $47, I probably could have got McCaffrey. I cut out of the bidding there at 40. So I wish I stuck in and got McCaffrey for a couple bucks less than I got Hunt for, because I'm really high on him this year. But, to kick off a dynasty with David Johnson and Kareem Hunt, very, very happy about that. Added Stephon Diggs, Corey Davis, Jerick McKinnon, Pat Mahomes, the aforementioned Baker Mayfield, and then a good run of the rookie wide receivers. So I think, I like my team a lot. If you can't hear it in my voice.
Yeah, you've been telling me all week how you like your team. Yeah, but it was definitely different because you were sitting there and, like you said, Le'Veon Bell is going for almost $70, and you're like, I can't afford $70. And before you know it, there's no more good running backs on the board there within that top 10, and you have to take someone within that price range. My first pick was Ezekiel Elliott for $62, which was only $3 less than what Le'Veon Bell went for. It was definitely different. It's something that when I redo it, I'll look into more again. Like, hey, I should take him now, because especially with running backs not being as deep as they sometimes have been in the past, they went quickly, and you missed some chances on some running backs. I'm extremely happy with my first 4 picks. Ezekiel Elliott and Dalvin Cook, I think, will be great. Even Cook coming back from his injury. They're both young, going to be around for a while. And then Jarvis Landry and Amari Cooper. I'm high on Amari Cooper. I think he's going to come back strong this year. The way I look at it is he has the talent and the targets to be wide receiver 1 and go 1,000+ yards receiving. So I think he was a good pick, and we'll see what Landry does. It's definitely gonna be interesting now, knowing that Tyrod Taylor is going to be out if he's going to be injured.
Yeah, and that's going to be definitely an interesting thing when it comes to Landry. Remains to be seen if Tyrod is out, how that's going to affect him. For me, I think you're the interesting pick that you got Royce Freeman for $11 as your 5th guy that you put on your team, and I like that pick a lot, especially adding it to the guaranteed usage and production of Zeke and Cook. Like, I love your running back core. I think that's huge, and that's going to be good for a very long time. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I was really surprised no one was betting more on him. He only went for $11, and I'm not mad about that at all.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking at that time.
Yeah, you should have took him, because he's definitely he's going to be good.
Yeah, and, I was in saving money mode at that point in time.
Yeah, I think I was too, but I needed someone at my flex. I wanted someone there, so I think he was a good spot for that.
Absolutely. So really, is there anything else that you kind of that you took away from that draft, that you kind of learned about an auction and learned about Dynasty Draft?
Let's do it again, because that was exciting.
Yeah, especially the beginning. The beginning was kind of crazy. Like any other drafts, it got a little slow towards the end, but when you're picking 22 deep, it can drag on a little bit.
It definitely did.
But the beginning was kind of nuts. So enough about our Dynasty Draft. We're gonna get into our live half point PPR mock draft. So before we started here, we set our draft order. I'm going to be picking in the 4th spot. Cody's going to be picking back in the 11th spot. So it's going to give you 2 different looks really on, it looks at drafting from 2 different positions within that draft. So we're doing this on the Sleeper app. It's a great spot for mock drafts, a great spot for news, rankings, things like that. I love it. It's one of my, one of my go-to fantasy football apps. So we're going to do the draft right on there. So yeah, let's kick it off. So as kind of expected, your first 3 picks, really no surprises: Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson. For me, sitting in the 4th spot, there's really there's 2 things. I know that Gurley and Bell, they're most likely going to be gone. I'm sitting there at 4, and I'm really, really waiting, hoping that somebody jumps up and takes Zeke at 3, because I want David Johnson to fall for me at 4. Unfortunately, in this situation, he did not. Now, one of the things that I've been coming into drafts this year specifically doing is making sure that I leave the first round with a top end running back. I think it's something that is really kind of important because of, we saw it in the dynasty draft and we kind of talked about it. The drop off in running back is so significant from, the guys that you're getting in the first round to even the guys you're getting at the end of the second. So for me, I think it's huge to get one of those guys. Preferably, I wish it was David Johnson. So now when I'm looking here, I'm looking at in this pick, debating between Zeke, Antonio Brown, and Saquon Barkley for me. It's really a tough pick. I kind of like the idea of Antonio Brown, but when you kind of look at the receivers that are going in the second round, I think I can sit here and maybe get somebody like AJ Green to fall back around me. Somebody kind of in that class, Devontae Adams, somebody like that. I like those guys, the second round receivers, more than I like the second round running backs. I'm going to get a running back here. So I'm coming down to Zeke and Barkley. The injuries that we talked about to Dallas's O-line worries me for Zeke. The usage I love, but it's a lot more guaranteed with Zeke. But I think I like the dual threat, the receiving upside of Saquon Barkley higher than I've ever taken him yet in a mock draft or a draft. But I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley at number 4.
I see what you're doing there. I personally would want Antonio Brown. I think he's going to be a little bit better for a PPR league. I think Saquon Barkley, still not sure what he's going to do. Obviously, he's looked great so far. We can't deny that. I would have gone Antonio Brown there. That's just me. No bias opinion because I'm a Steelers fan, but I still would have taken him there. But yeah, wide receivers, I would only see 3 wide receivers, maybe 4, including Julio Jones, that you could take in round 1. Other than that, it's going to be round 2 or round 3 that I would wait for to pick up a wide receiver. They're a little bit deeper than running backs this year. And it's my turn now. I picked the 11th spot. I personally enjoy having either the beginning of the draft, of course anyone does, or the end of the draft. I like having those 2 picks in a row. I like the 11th and 12th spot. I think it's interesting to see where everything falls. So far this year, actually, I haven't drafted yet in the 11th in any of our leagues, so we'll see how this goes. Right now, for running backs, we have Leonard Fournette, Kareem Hunt, and Christian McCaffrey, and then Devontae Freeman in the top 4. For me, those are still kind of early for some of those. At wide receiver, we have Odell Beckham and Julio Jones.
So really quick, you listed off those 3 running backs, and McCaffrey he's up there as the 5th highest ranked player left on the board according to Sleeper. This is something that's really kind of interesting and, in my opinion, really important to take into account where you are like which platform you're drafting on. If you're drafting on Yahoo, for example, Christian McCaffrey's ADP is at the end of round 2, not the beginning of round 2. So for me, if I'm sitting there drafting on Yahoo, I'm pretty confident that McCaffrey is going to make it back around to me because Yahoo's rankings structure it that way. A lot of people, when they, part of this comes under knowing the room, knowing the people you're drafting with. But, a lot of people sit there and they'll look at the rankings, and on Yahoo, like I said, specifically, McCaffrey is weighted a lot lower, is ranked a lot lower. So.
Yeah, that's very true. I definitely see McCaffrey is really high here. I don't want him being my RB1. I think he's gonna have a great season. Don't get me wrong. I just really don't want him as my running back 1. There's some other players I kind of want to pick that know are going to be a power horse. for that team. So I'm actually going to go and take Leonard Fournette here at 11. And because I already have my next pick planned out when it comes back around. And I'm actually going to go bypass Julio Jones because I like Julio. He's always up and down for me. When I've had him in the past, has never panned out well. So I'm actually going to take Michael Thomas with my wide receiver there pick. I think he's going to have a great year. I think Brees, he's always been consistent. I think Brees will keep that going this year.
Okay. So I'm going to roll through that first round again. So we had Gurley, Bell, David Johnson. I took Saquon Barkley at 4. Zeke at 5. Antonio Brown, Alvin Kamara, Melvin Gordon, Hopkins, Cook. Cody, you took Fournette at 11. Beckham and Hunt won at the turn. You came back with Michael Thomas. So you're starting off with Fournette and Thomas. Then Julio, Mixon, AJ Green, McCaffrey, Devontae Freeman. And the guy that I was really, really hoping would fall to me, again, this is another situation of know the room that you're drafting in a room like Yahoo, where I've already done a couple of drafts, a couple of leagues this year. Keenan Allen is going at the beginning of round 2. Here he almost fell to me in the 9th pick of the second round. He went one spot before me. So I'm looking at a couple different options here. This is why I had to go with a running back with that first pick, because running backs on the board, Jordan Howard, solid. I don't think I'm buying all the hype out of Chicago that their offense is going to be this year's Rams. He's going to be good. I just don't love him. I don't think he offers enough of a dual threat to really, in round 2, you really can't go wrong here. But as an RB1, I like a running back who's going to give me both rushing and receiving yards. I don't think he's going to give you a ton of receiving yards. I'm looking at Devontae Adams, Rob Gronkowski. Those are some of the other position players on the board. But after that, you're looking at Shady, McKinnon, Alex Collins. So the running back group really thinned out incredibly quickly.
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback off your comment there about picking a running back, especially having your running back 1 or 2 high receptions. Leonard Fournette's not going to be that kind of running back, but knowing that I had to pick shortly after and I was getting a high receiver that had a lot of receptions, I was comfortable with taking him there. But yeah, definitely something to look for of having a running back that has, the catching ability out of the backfield.
Yeah. So for me, this is kind of coming down. Honestly, it's a pretty easy pick for me. I picked Devontae Adams. You could go Gronk because, a lot of people would. As we talked about in our previous episode about tight ends, I'm not nearly as high on Gronk because I don't think Gronk plays more than 13 games in a season. I just don't think he's going to. So I don't like the up and down and the risk of the injury in that spot. I already talked about Jordan Howard, Mike Evans. He could be good, but I just don't like him. I don't like him in this spot. It's kind of hit or miss. He's got to get a lot of targets to see, for him to put up the kind of numbers he did before. So in this spot, it's pretty easy for me. Devontae Adams is the pick.
Yep, I agree with that one. I would take him probably there too. I don't see much more else for us.
All right. So after that, it went Howard, Evans, Diggs, Rob Gronkowski, Tyreek Hill, and Derrick Henry. So back on the board again here. A couple different options come to mind for me. I like T.Y. Hilton in this spot. Travis Kelce in this spot. Honestly, looking at here, I have, Saquon Barkley, there's a little bit of uncertainty. Devontae Adams, there's a little bit of uncertainty. So for both of these guys, the upside for them is huge, but we haven't seen Adams do it for a full season with Rodgers as the number 1 receiver. We haven't seen Saquon Barkley in the NFL other than a preseason game. So I like a little bit of guaranteed production here. My number 1 tight end this year, Travis Kelce, kind of a no-brainer for me in this spot. I like Kelce at the 4th pick of the 3rd round.
All right, I was not expecting you to take Kelce there. I would say really think you're going to take McCoy.
It's, for me, tight end's a weird spot. I don't love taking them this early, but I also, when I roll through my first two picks, I generally have a lot more consistency and a lot more guaranteed production. So I kind of felt that I needed something that, I think you're pretty secure with Kelce on a week-to-week basis. I mean, he's like I said, in my opinion, he's the number one tight end this year. So if you're getting him after Gronk in the third round, it's, I'm good with that.
Yeah, I just, I mean, third round is okay for me. I probably would have waited a little bit. I mean, his ADP I have right now is still going earlier in the third round, 306, which is kind of like right where you are. So that's kind of normal. I'll agree with you there. That's a good pick. But I would have maybe waited a little bit on tight end. I kind of want to streamline it. That's just my viewpoint on it.
Yep.
So looking at this, let's see. I already have a solid running back and a wide receiver.
I'm just going to run through the next picks before we jump into that. Rodgers, Hilton, Thielen, Alex Collins, Jerick McKinnon, LaShawn McCoy came off the board after me. So now you're up.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, look, even A-Rod's went right after Travis Kelce. So, that's pretty – I think that's very high for Aaron Rodgers. But
where would you look – where would you be comfortable drafting Rodgers?
Maybe the fourth round, fifth. I mean, Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson probably have been the only ones I would think to even get this early, or the only two quarterbacks.
Okay.
Okay, so look what I have available here. Well, as we went through tight ends, we have Gronkowski and Travis Kelce are both off the board, and who's sitting there is Zach Ertz and Jimmy Graham is top two. So I'm not going to get a tight end. I'm probably going to wait more towards the end of the draft, pick up somebody. I'm going to stock up with some other players. Looking at my wide receivers, I have Doug Baldwin, Amari Cooper, and Larry Fitzgerald as the top three, and then Royce Freeman, Jay Ajayi, and Kenyon Drake as top three running backs. I think I'm going to go and grab Royce Freeman here because he's a top running back right now, and I'm pretty sure he'll be gone next time he comes back around in the two picks for me. So I'm going to go and grab Royce Freeman here. And then Doug Baldwin and Amari Cooper was going off the board. I was really hoping Amari Cooper was going to come back to me back around there, but it doesn't look like he did, and so that kind of messed me up. Let's see here. So Larry Fitzgerald and Juju Smith-Schuster are the top two wide receivers. I may go another running back here.
For me, kind of looking at the spot you're in now, I think, if you don't love the two receivers, and from the sounds of it, you don't, quite frankly, I don't either. I don't like any of the running backs that you're looking at on the board right now. You're looking at, like you said, Ajayi, Drake, and Miller are the running backs on the board. Personally, I don't like any of those guys. Ertz is still there. Deshaun Watson is still there. I would, at this point in time, consider one of those two. I mean, it's a bit early for me for Watson. I mean, if Rodgers was still on the board, I think it'd be a no-brainer at this point in time. But
I'm hearing, even though we had it come out that Drake and Kenyon Drake and Frank Gore were kind of co-starters. I've been hearing good reports on Kenyon Drake. I think he's gonna be the running back for Miami there. He obviously was beating Jay Ajayi before for the head game there. So that's the reason why they felt they can get rid of Ajayi. So I'm gonna go ahead and take Kenyon Drake here. I'm gonna wait on the receiver position a little bit here. I think I can pick up some more farther down in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that, for me, the receiver depth late in the draft is a lot stronger than running back depth. Quite frankly, that a lot comes down to, just the number of receivers that actually get production on the field. So that makes a big difference there. After your pick, Lamar Miller, Larry Fitzgerald, Jay Ajayi, Zach Ertz, Juju, Jimmy Graham are the next guys off the board. Now it's kind of looking at an interesting spot. At this point in time, usually in my drafts, I love having two good running backs at this point in time. That's my, really my go-to. I like the guaranteed workload. And I don't have that this time. So, personally, I'd like to look at a running back. But I'm looking at guys like Ingram, Marshawn Lynch, Kerryon Johnson. It's a bit too early for Kerryon for me. This is kind of a difficult spot. This is, for me, right kind of halfway through round 3, maybe towards the end of round 3, there's a pretty significant drop off as far as the talent. There's a lot of guys that I'm in round 4, especially, that I'm just not super high on. I'm not high on Landry. I'm not high on Demarius. I don't like Josh Gordon. I don't think Cooks is going to have the usage really to justify being, somebody that I take in this spot. There's one guy here that I think kind of stands out as far as guaranteed usage, at least early on in the season. For me, that's Chris Hogan. This is a lot. I mean, this is a guy that he's always underrated, but when you look at the weapons that Brady is missing for the beginning of the season there in New England, I think he's guaranteed a ton of targets, at least for those first 4 games. He's always been on a good pace to be, last season before he got injured, he was a wide receiver 1 to that point in time in the season. I think Hogan, especially if he stays healthy, is going to be very good all season long. I like his consistency there, and again, it's something that I would love to get a little bit more of into my team right now. If I wanted to go on a higher upside pick, I might look at Josh Gordon in this spot, but again, I'm trying to add a little bit more consistency here, and I like Chris Hogan for that.
Yeah, I would have taken Chris Hogan there too. I agree with every point you said there. He would definitely have been my pick as well.
Oh, okay. So the next picks right after that: Deshaun Watson, Mark Ingram, Brandon Cooks, Demaryius Thomas, Jarvis Landry, and you heard my disappointment at the pick that the player that I picked right before me again, Marquise Goodwin. I think Goodwin is going to have an absolutely huge season this year. He's going to be the number 1 receiver in San Francisco. A lot of people love what Jimmy Garoppolo is doing, and he's going to be their number 1 target. I would have loved to see him sneak back around to me there. But again, I mean, I'm kind of looking at this in a difficult spot here at the running back position. I'm still looking at Marshawn Lynch, Kerryon Johnson. I'd love to be able to add another running back in this spot, but we don't know when Kerryon's going to start. Deion Lewis is on the board, Rex Burkhead, Ronald Jones. I mean, I don't like any of these guys. I mean, are any of those guys that you like?
I mean, the only players I could think about taking, yeah, I don't like much here. I mean, you already got your quarterback, you got a tight end. I mean, Marshawn Lynch would be my go-to probably next, or Kerryon Johnson. Yeah, you don't know when he's going to start really, but I think he's going to end up being the main running back feature in Detroit, and they need a running back. It's been quite some time before they've had a franchise running back, and I think Kerryon Johnson could be it. Yeah, those would be my 2 players I would look to get if I was in your position.
Yeah, I think at this point in time, I do like some of the running backs available later on. Jamal Williams should be there the next time around. Chris Carson might be still on the board. There's some guys that I do like a little bit. A receiver that I'm really, really high on this year, Corey Davis. I know for a fact he's not making it back around to me. I'm going to make him my pick here. Add another good receiver, another guy that is almost guaranteed to be the number 1 receiver on their team. I know Hogan isn't going to be the number 1 target, but he's going to be their number 1 wide receiver this year. So I like Corey Davis at this pick. I just think he's got massive upside.
Yeah, you're right. He was not making it back to because I was probably picking him with my 2 picks here. So that was a good grab. Good job on that one. So after Ian's Corey Davis pick there, next went Deion Lewis, Josh Gordon, Allen Robinson, Tom Brady, Ronald Jones, and Kerryon Johnson. So now I'm sitting here with 1 wide receiver, so I probably should grab a wide receiver before it gets any deeper for me. Looking at Golden Tate and Marvin Jones as the top 2, and Alshon Jeffrey. And then Will Fuller, that's interesting. Will Fuller could be interesting. But he'd be my wide receiver too. What do we have for tight ends? Greg Olsen, Evan Ingram, that could be good, and Kyle Rudolph. Let's see. Yeah, I think I want to go. Let me go Evan Ingram. Might be a little premature for that, but I think he's going to get a lot of targets and receptions. So it's not kind of like a wide receiver for me there. And then so there goes Golden Tate. So that kind of helps me out in my choice there of who would take Golden Tate or Marvin Jones. I'm actually going to take Will Fuller, I think, here.
Okay.
Let's see who else we have here. Jordan Nelson, Randall Cobb, Cooper Kupp.
I mean, I would agree that pick, if you're looking at a wide receiver, that it would come down to Marvin Jones and Will Fuller. If I were you, I would have been hoping that Golden Tate would have fallen another draft pick to me there. Again, I guess I like Tate more than Jones this year, but you're looking at Jones and Fuller, it's probably the right idea there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about taking Golden Tate there. I'm just not too high on him this year. I just kind of want to stay away from him. I've had him in the past. He never really,
He's kind of inconsistent, right? He's got everybody kind of thinks that he's a high reception guy, PPR guy, that he's consistent, but he really isn't. He has big games and then he disappears for a game or two.
Yeah, and Will Fuller, I think he's a good season, but that scares me too because Deshaun Watson, who knows if he's going to have the same production that he ended on before his injury, because he had a historic run there with touchdowns, and he honestly really cannot keep that up again. So kind of torn here. I think I'm going to go Marvin Jones here. Not too happy about that pick, but I think he'll, he's there.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, it's at this point in time in the draft where it gets a little bit slim, and it's just kind of difficult to really make a decision. So for me, you just got to find guys that you like, even if you're picking them a little bit early. That's kind of the way to go. After you went, Rex Burkhead, Russell Wilson, Chris Carson. Unfortunately, didn't make it back to me. Drew Brees, Will Fuller, and Rashad Penny were the picks. I'm still on with only one running back. I need to get more production from that spot. I'm looking at really Carlos Hyde as an option here. Sony Michel, Jamal Williams. I think Williams makes it back to me in about 5 picks. So I'm going to leave him on the board. Just kind of let him sit. And, a guy that I'm high on here. Man, it's another tough spot. Carlos Hyde, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there because Nick Chubb has looked good in this preseason. So you wonder how long he holds him off for that spot. I think for the beginning of the season, at least, he's a pretty solid pick. He's going to give you a good workload. Yeah, I like Carlos Hyde here. I mean, this is the 6th round. Towards the end of the 6th round, I think it's a pretty good spot for him. So I feel pretty good about that pick.
Yeah, I probably would have went him there too, or even taken Jamal Williams there at your pick, and then see who was left there and come back around. But yeah, Carlos Hyde, good pick.
See, and that's kind of what I was thinking. Just looking again, know the ADP of your room, know the rankings of the room you're in. Jamal Williams was about 10 spots down the list, and there was only about 12 spots down the list, and there was only 6 picks that had to go before my next pick. So I thought he might make it back to me. So there's 2 guys that I'm looking at on the board right now that I really like. Sammy Watkins and Jamal Williams. I still need a little bit more at running back, so I'm going Jamal Williams. I mean, actually, this is why roster construction is important with the fact that I have Devontae Adams on my team, which I didn't think of, but which I missed before. It's one thing to have a quarterback and a wide receiver off the same team. I personally do not like having a running back and a wide receiver on the same team. Green Bay is one of the few offenses where that's kind of okay. Green Bay, Pittsburgh are really the 2 that come to mind where you can definitely get away with it. But for me, I kind of want to steer away from Jamal Williams there. I'm going to add another receiver to my bunch. Sammy Watkins is my pick here. And I'm sure you don't like it because, I'm a lot higher on Sammy than you are. But I think in the 7th round, I think it's a pretty good spot for him.
Yeah, 7th round, I would have taken him too. If he'd fallen to me, I probably would have taken him too as well there. I'm not too high in him, but he's going to get the targets, and he's going to be looking towards the end zone for Watkins. I mean, Patrick Mahomes will be. So back to me. So after Sammy Watkins was picked by Ian, we have Michael Crabtree, Marlon Mack, Chris Thompson, Kyle Rudolph, Isaiah Crowell, and Sony Michel. I was really looking to grab Sony Michel there. Of course, he went right before me. So I only have 2 receivers right now. Kind of want to stock up on another one here. So Emmanuel Sanders, Jordy Nelson, and Randall Cobb right now are the top 3 receivers. And running backs, you have Jamal Williams, Terry Cohen, and Aaron Jones as the 3 running backs there. And for QBs, we still have a few. Make a wait on those a little bit longer here. So I'm going to go in and I'm actually going to take Randall Cobb here.
Yeah, not a bad pick. Personally, I would, again, my favorite receiver that was still on the board there is Robbie Anderson. But looking at who was there, you could probably take the chance that he would fall back around to you if you did like him. And Emmanuel Sanders, Jamal Williams are the next 2 guys off the board. So if you did like Robbie Anderson, you could take him here.
Yeah, definitely. I thought about Robbie Anderson too. I think he'll be good. I just want to see who I have here. I'll look at some notes. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, Robbie Anderson is probably my next pick as well too. Another high upside. My receiver still young. He's going to get a lot of targets because they don't have much of that offense right now. So yeah, probably going to take him as well too. Jordy Nelson, just too old and too many questions around that Oakland team at the moment. So
yeah, no, I like that pick there definitely. It adds another potential, big time upside player there for you as well. So following that pick, Delaney Walker, Trey Burton, Cooper Kupp, Cohen, Andrew Luck, Aaron Jones. Would have liked Aaron Jones to fall for me there, but again, I don't love pairing the running back and wide receiver. For an offense like Kansas City, I do have Watkins and Kelsey, but I think the 2 of them both offer enough upside that, touchdown upside that they could be played together in the right matchup, assuming Kansas City's offense is to the level that, that we kind of potentially see it being. Again, at this point in time in the draft, I only have 2 running backs. I don't like sitting here with only 2 running backs here. But again, you really see how quickly the running back group thins out. So for me, I kind of, in retrospect, wish that I had jumped on Jordan Howard maybe in round 2, and I'd be sitting there with Barkley and Howard. I really was hoping that a guy like Mixon or McCaffrey fell to me in round 2, but you kind of have to, it's part of the game that you play there. So sitting with only 2 running backs, I have to find a running back that I like here. And quite frankly, there really aren't that many. I mean, the best running back on the board right now is Peyton Barber. It seems like he's going to be the starter, at least for the beginning of the season. Ronald Jones has not made a good impact. It's not made a good impression on his coaching staff. Can't catch a football, can't block, and really struggling to run. I really just need to kind of bolster, my running back group. So yeah, I mean, I hate this pick at this point in time. I really do, but I think Peyton Barber is the way to go here in round 8.
Yeah, you really don't have too many options to choose from there. Yeah, I'd probably taking him too, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, right? Like, for me, it's just kind of an odd draft for me because I'm doing things that I don't usually do. I like to get guaranteed production from my running backs early on. I like one receiver that I know is going to have production, and then pretty much once I get those spots filled, I like to go big time upside. And that's not exactly how I've been drafting. I mean, guys like Carlos Hyde, Peyton Barber, Chris Hogan. I mean, he's got limited upside, but it's kind of a different draft for me. So it's a little bit different. After Peyton Barber, Jordy Nelson, Jamison Crowder, Funchess, Duke Johnson, Robert Woods, and the Jags defense off the board at the third pick of the 9th round. For me, that's way too high for a defense, but you're going to see him go up there. People like their defenses.
So, yeah, definitely very high for defense. Definitely something depending on the league I'm in. Something I'm going to wait on and get at the end of the draft or just streamline based on matchup, especially in week 1 there. You're not sure what defenses are, what they're going to do.
Yeah. Defense, if there's kickers in the league, they're usually my last. Their defense and kicker are my last 2 picks no matter what. So that's for me. There's no chance that I'm even considering a defense that high. Next up on the board, taking a look at here, I'm really kind of debating between 2 guys. There's a couple of quarterbacks, Cousins, Garoppolo are on here, but I'm not looking at them. Matt Stafford's up here. I'm looking at a couple wide receivers, Kelvin Benjamin and Mike Williams of the Chargers. Mike Williams is a guy that we expected big things out of last year as a rookie. Barely played because of injury. He's back. He's healthy. And there's a lot of targets that need to be taken up in Los Angeles this year with Hunter Henry out for the year. They're probably going to bring Antonio Gates back, but he only is going to be really used in the red zone. So I don't think he's going to take a lot of the targets. Those targets are going to go somewhere. Those targets are going to Mike Williams. I think he's one of my, he's kind of in the same boat for me as Corey Davis. Not quite to the same extent because Davis is should be the clear-cut number 1 for his team. Williams is not going to be that because Keenan Allen's in front of him. But I like the offense enough, and I like the talent of Mike Williams here. So for the 4th pick of the 9th round, my guy is Mike Williams from the Chargers.
Yeah, I like Mike Williams a lot too. I definitely, he's going to be – I think he's going to grab a lot of touchdowns for that team. It's going to bring down Keenan Allen's touchdowns a little bit, but yeah, you're right. Keenan Allen's going to be the go-to on that team first, and then Mike Williams. So, that's a good spot to pick him. I agree with you on that pick. Let's see. After Mike Williams, we have Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jordan Reed, Kelvin Benjamin, C.J. Anderson, and Matthew Stafford. All right. So I was actually going to probably take Matthew Stafford with this pick here. Doesn't look like I'm going to now since he has gone off the board. So looking at what I have left, looks like I'm pretty good on receivers now. I just took 3 of the last picks. And then let's see who we have at running back. Ty Montgomery, Nick Chubb, and James White, and Latavius Murray. I think I'm actually going to go quarterback here. Philip Rivers is sitting there for me as the number 1 quarterback. I'm going to take him. I think he's going to have a solid year. He's always, been a solid fantasy quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is kind of one of those situations where it's a little early for me for quarterback. But when you look at all the quarterbacks off the board already, I mean, you've got 2, 3. I mean, you're already in round 9, and there's only 2 teams. I mean, I'm one of 2 teams that haven't drafted a quarterback yet. You were the 10th team to draft a quarterback. So there's a lot of quarterbacks off the board already at this point in time. So
yeah, it's definitely something you could wait on. I mean, I was debating on waiting on him there. I just don't like anybody right now that's on the board. Being the 9th round, even though I have to pick right after that, still gotta, take a look here.
Well, and it's another thing too for you to take Rivers there. It's all part of the tier based drafting that we kind of like to talk about. Is that if he's the last quarterback that you really like. So if you don't love the other options on the board, why not? So I think that's a good pick there.
All right. let's see. So I think I kind of want to take another running back here. I have 3 solid running backs, but kind of want to look for somebody that, is kind of sitting there that I don't think is going to fall back to me. Kind of looking at James White. It's kind of far down right now at the 4th ranked running back left. With Sony Michel being out for a little bit, he'll be the go-to. And so I'm looking to take him possibly. I don't really like any wide receivers. Alan Hearns is the only one that kind of comes to mind as I'm looking at this. DJ Moore is there too at Carolina. I think I'm gonna go ahead and take James White down there.
Yeah, I mean half-point PPR or full-point PPR, he's gonna get his. He's gonna get his for as far as receptions. It's always been his main role. So I like that pick there. Pierre Garçon, Ty Montgomery, Matt Ryan, Corey Clement, and Nick Chubb off the board. I kind of was hoping he'd fall back to me in that round so I could lock up that Cleveland backfield. I do think they're going to get a lot of work this year, so I'd like to have Chubb. So whenever he does take over the role from Carlos Hyde, I'd have that there. But unfortunately, he didn't make it to me. So looking at the board, I'm looking at a whole bunch of guys that I just don't love in this spot. Again, you're getting towards the end of the draft, so this is going to happen. Only 3 running backs on the board. I would like to have more than that at this point in time. Gio Bernard is still there. I like him a lot, especially in half point. Naheem Hines, Matt Breida, Jordan Wilkins. I think Wilkins is still far enough off that he might make it back to me. So I'm going to let him sit and hope that he gets back to me in 2 rounds. It's kind of a risky situation, and I'm not sure he makes it past you the next time around, but I'm going to take that chance. A guy that I think is really, really underrated this year, and I think is going to be the number 1 receiver for his team. To get him in the 10th round, end of the 10th round, Kenny Stills. I think it's kind of a no-brainer here.
Yeah, who knows what's going to happen with them. I'm still not sure who's going to be their target, their go-to target, either Parker or Kenny Stills in Miami. It's going to be interesting to see how it kind of plays out. But yeah, I could have went either Kenny Stills or kind of reached down for Devontae Parker. If I was looking to see who's going to be the receiver for Miami.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I've put a lot of. I've gotten burned by Devontae Parker the last couple of years. I put a lot of faith in him, and it came back to bite me in the ass. So it's one of those things. I'm a little bit bitter with him. He's kind of dead to me, so I'm not going near him.
Fair enough.
And quite frankly, I think he's not on the field enough yet. I don't think he impresses out there. So after Stills, it went Hearns, Njoku, DJ Moore, Sterling Shepard, the Eagles defense, and Cam Meredith. In this 14-round draft, really, I'd like there to be one more round, but hey, what are you going to do? That leaves me with 2 position picks left. I still need a quarterback, and I still would like to add running backs here. So with most of the quarterbacks off the board, or most of the teams with quarterbacks already, I'm just going to go ahead and take a running back that I think should become the starting running back at some point in time this year, and that is Jordan Wilkins. I'm taking the shot on the upside. If he does break through and take over that job, I think I'm going to get a really good pick in the 11th round. So I'm going to go Jordan Wilkins now because I don't think he gets back to me.
He could have. I'm depending on who was left there, I may or may not have taken him, but he could have made it back to you. So after Jordan Wilkins, picked by Ian, we have George Kittle, Latavius Murray, the Chargers defense, LeGarrette Blount, Jack Doyle, Patrick Mahomes. All right, so now my turn. Yeah, actually, Patrick Mahomes, I was kind of going to wait on a little bit. I know he'd kind of fall down here. I was thinking about taking him. He's, been looking good. He has a lot of weapons, so definitely something, I thought about taking later on in the draft. But as you mentioned there with Philip Rivers and that, tier-based drafting, he was the best one available. So for the value there in the 9th round, I thought that was a pretty good pick there. See, looking at what I have some running backs, wide receivers. I think I'm going to go another wide receiver here. Let's see what we have on the board. Calvin Ridley, Devontae Parker, Marquise Lee, and Tyler Lockett. I think I'm actually going to go down here and grab. I'm going to go. Yeah, I hit the button. I guess I'm grabbing Michael Gallup from Dallas. Grab the button. I hit the button by mistake on him, but that's okay.
I like that pick there, though. I really do.
Yeah, I think he's gonna. We both agreed on this before. We think he's gonna be the number one receiver there. It's gonna take a week or two maybe to get that to happen, but he's gonna be the number one overall there. So yeah, I guess I'll draft him there, and then looking at running backs, I don't really like anyone right now. There's not many that left that I would kind of take right now. The rest of them kind of looking at like handcuffs or just backup running backs. I think I'm gonna go ahead and take another wide receiver here. I'm gonna go ahead and take Devontae Parker. Just because we just talked about, we're not sure what the Miami is going to do, but I think I have a pretty solid other wide receiving core around me, so I can take a chance on him and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're getting him this late. I mean, the talent is there, the potential is there for him to go off, but we've never seen him do it. But again, this late, I mean, you take somebody with the potential to be that good, then yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, that's my strategy, especially this late in the draft, is all about upside. You can find people on the waiver wire to kind of fill in. So I say go upside here. I say that I do need another running back. I still need a quarterback. Quite frankly, I'm going to worry about my kicker on waivers before the first week of the season. It's something that, as long as your league, and again, know your league rules, as long as your league doesn't require you to come out of the draft with a certain number of players at certain positions, then, why take a kicker now? I mean, you still got a couple weeks left, 2 weeks left before the season starts. You can deal with that later. I do need another running back that's going to get me some usage here. I don't love the player, but I don't mind the potential usage. Rob Kelly is going to be my guy here. Just, again, just bolstering my backfield. After him, Alex Smith, Mariota, Gio, the Ravens D, Nyheim Hines, and Kenny Golladay. That's a big blow for me there that Marcus Mariota came off the board as a second quarterback to the team, picking 2 picks after me there. I was really hoping he would sneak back around to me. But he didn't do that. Again, if I had another round here, the guy that I would really look to, because I don't think he's come off the board yet. Give me a second. A guy that I really love, number 2 guy in Tampa Bay. He's getting big time reviews. They said that they see him as their 1A, not their number 2. So definitely something to look at. Geronimo Allison, Josh Doxson. These are all guys that I really, really like late in drafts. Cortland Sutton, I'm really high on him. By the end of the season, I could see him being their top target. I mean, Demaryius is getting old. His production has declined every year since, for the last 3 years. I could see him taking over one of those roles. So those are all guys that I love late in drafts. Just based on where I am with my team, I do need to finish this off with a quarterback and a defense. I like Eli Manning to have a bounce back year. I think there's enough talent on that team. Again, I'm kind of going against my running back and quarterback duo that I don't generally like having, but this late in the draft, it doesn't leave you too many options there for your quarterback. But I do like the fact that Eli is going to throw a pretty good number of touchdowns to Saquon this year.
Yeah, he definitely is looking for a comeback here. With the addition of Saquon, they've kind of beefed up their offensive line, and they always have Odell Beckham Jr. there, which you can't go wrong with throwing touchdowns to him. So, and then also Evan Ingram ended the season well last year. He'll definitely add more to Eli Manning's production this year. So yeah, another good pick there. Again, another quarterback that I could streamline, later in draft or just pick up, because I'm sure somebody might not pick him up. Who came off the board next was Matt Breida, Devontae Booker, Martavis Bryant, and then we have 3 defenses taken. Denver Broncos, New Orleans Saints, and New England Patriots taken. So my last 2 picks here, probably shouldn't get a defense here, but I don't really, not too worried how much on defense. I think we can go for another running back here that I kind of want to take a chance on, that I think is going to have a solid year. Let's see if he's still here. I think I'm actually going to take Bilal Powell here. Yeah, I think he's going to have a great year this year. He's looking great in the preseason. He lost some weight, and they're kind of talking him up. And then for defense, I'll go ahead and take my Steelers.
That's just a homer pick right there.
Oh, yes.
No, that's okay, because I'm doing the same thing with my defense, assuming they're still on the board. With my defense, the hometown Buffalo Bills, because quite frankly, I don't think the Baltimore Ravens offense is any good at all. And I think the Bills have a pretty good defense this year, so I'm going to roll them at least for week 1. That's pretty much about it. So that kind of concludes our draft there. We'll throw these up on Twitter in a poll, see what you guys think, see who came through with the better draft. But hopefully it kind of gives a little bit of the thought process behind what we're thinking in those different spots. I mean, drafting, there's a couple different things that like I've mentioned before, we're talking about in the mock drafts, know your ADP. The same goes for real drafts, know the ADP, and also know your draft room. Know who you're drafting with and the guys that they like. That can all kind of, knowing their tendencies really help kind of play into if you think a guy's going to make it back to you or not. If you're drafting with a bunch of Bills fans, not the best example because they don't have too many fantasy relevant guys. So let's go if you're drafting with a bunch of Steelers fans. I don't know what you're doing with your life, but
don't be angry.
But my point is, you may see Juju go a little bit higher than expected. You may see Big Ben go a little bit higher than expected. So there's all kind of things to take a look at. Anything that you kind of took away from the mock here?
Well, drafting 14 rounds is kind of different. I think it cuts out a couple of rounds there than normally. But yeah, remember the format you're drafting in, half point PPR, full point PPR. Look for wide receivers or get the receptions. Look for the running backs and get receptions is very important. After I took, Michael Thomas there, I kind of forgot about the whole PPR thing and took 2 running backs and didn't really take a wide receiver. So the 2 receivers I got after that, Marvin Jones and Randall Cobb, I was kind of iffy on. I'm not really sure on them. So I kind of moved away from the PPR format there. But, try to remember what you're drafting and that will help you out.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing for me. It's a weird team. I think my wide receivers came out really strong. I mean, actually run through my team real quick for everybody. Saquon Barkley, Devontae Adams, Travis Kelce, Chris Hogan, Corey Davis, Carlos Hyde, Sammy Watkins, Peyton Barber, Mike Williams, Kenny Stills, Jordan Wilkins, Rob Kelly, Eli Manning, and the Buffalo Bills defense. So I am extremely happy with my wide receiver depth. I'm a little concerned about the running backs. That's kind of, usually a flip for me because I like to prioritize my running backs. But, the way this draft fell, I came out with some pretty strong receiver depth in my opinion. So I'm going to run through your team real quick, Cody.
Yeah. So I started off taking Leonard Fournette and then Michael Thomas, Royce Freeman, Kenyon Drake, Evan Ingram, Marvin Jones, Randall Cobb, Robbie Anderson. Then I took Philip Rivers, James White, Michael Gallup, Devontae Parker, Bilal Powell, and then the Pittsburgh Steelers defense for my last pick. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't too happy with Marvin Jones, Randall Cobb. I think I got, right behind there 2 great upside players of Robert Anderson and Michael Gallup. I think, they're going to make their way into my starting lineup there, depending on how the season goes. But I think those 2 picks will kind of balance out my other receivers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got the running backs in Freeman and Drake that really could be huge for you. Quite frankly, they might not be. You may struggle in the beginning of the season if it takes a little while for Freeman to kind of establish himself. But if he does come through and does what we kind of expect him to, I mean, it could be great. He could definitely be a great spot for you there. It's kind of crazy to see his ADP where he's at. Excuse me, seeing him come off the board in the 3rd round now, where just a couple of weeks ago he was going in the 7th or 8th round, 6th, 7th, 8th round. I mean, that's
he shot right up after the injuries to some running backs. Sarah Geis getting hurt and Sony Michel going down. His ADP skyrocketed.
Yeah, and I mean, and quite frankly, the fact that Devontae Booker looks like trash. So
yeah, that too.
That's not hurting his draft stock at all. So, but like I said, we're gonna throw these up on Twitter. Check them out. Vote in the poll. Make sure you pick my team as a stronger team because we all know it is. And
no,
we'll throw we'll throw the dynasty rosters up in there too, just so you guys can check those out too, and just kind of see what see where we're at and kind of see the thought process at least. It's all kind of an interesting thing. Drafting is always a good time. It's one of the things I liked about the dynasty draft is it does allow you those extra rounds to go for those big time upside young players. So that's always a cool thing. So thanks for tuning in, for checking everything out. Hop on, listen to it, share it. Hopefully this should be on iTunes really soon. iTunes has been giving me a hard time about not letting me log in to get this podcast over to iTunes. So hopefully by the time you're hearing this, it is on iTunes. Subscribe, like, all that fun stuff, share it around, and hit us up with any questions that you might have. You can find us on Twitter at the FFF Pod. That's probably the best spot to find us. So hit us up there and let's talk some fantasy football. But again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys next time.